All right, welcome. Are you going to stay awake? I saw this time slot. I'm like, we're toast. You guys, this is the second half of the conference. You've been eating way too much. It's warm. You just came out of a plenary session, so we'll see how this works. I'm Karen, and Stephanie's manning the door. God has blessed us to co-lead women's ministry, and we're going to just share our story with you. For those of you that have been attending other women's ministry breakouts, I have been, and so there's that whole thing of, oh my gosh, I don't do that, and I don't do that, and my ministry isn't as big as yours, and I don't have that event. So I'm just throwing this out here right now. Do what God has called you to do in your place, and we're just here to encourage each other. It's not about competing, and that's so hard for us as women, because that's the first thing we do naturally. So we're going to share what God's done at our church, and we're hoping that you can take one thing out of what God has done at our church and apply it in your setting. So before I pray, I want to do a quick icebreaker. If you're used to weather like this, would you stand up? If you're used to this kind of weather, like where you live, what church you're at. Okay, where are you from? Just give me a state. All right, so we got Peoria and California. All the rest of you are from cold places. Stand up.
I'm from Texas.
Oh, you're supposed to stand. Okay.
It's hotter.
It's hotter. Texas. Okay.
From Missouri.
Gaylord, Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Fremont, Nebraska.
West Bend, Wisconsin.
Yay.
Arlington, Minnesota.
Nice.
Washington State.
Washington State.
Ham Lake, Minnesota.
Nice. Let's go back here. No, you.
Now Memphis. Used to be Wisconsin.
Awesome.
Laconia, Minnesota.
I know right where that is. You're by Mayor Lutheran, kind of.
Yes.
Okay, I got friends there.
Indiana.
Nice. Okay, sitting down at the table. Oh, you were warm. Never mind, you were warm too. I know where Deanne's from. Yep. And in the back, Nebraska, Wisconsin. And last but certainly not least, hey, Packer fans. All right, you can sit. Now I'm going to have you stand again one more time, but you have to stand based on the poll that I put on the app. Now, Stephanie is the IT major. She's the one that's really good at this stuff. I don't know what I did. Apparently, you could only vote for one. And I don't know if that's me or if that's the app. So what I'm going to say is that was the app. That it only let you pick one. But I'm betting that some of you have more than one, and I want to hear what your others are, okay? So the first thing I asked, do you have an active LWML society? At least one. Stand up. Okay? Great. You can sit. Next one. How many of you have a women's Bible study led by a woman? Oh, awesome. Okay? Next one. How many of you have a quilting group? Oh, more than on the app. Good. How about this got a big fat 0 on the app. A prayer group. Woo! You guys are representing over here. Love it. Okay? The last one was other. So if you said other, Mom's group. Mom's group. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Then there was a category that said other. So what did I forget? Ladies' night out. Book club. Yeah, I used to have one of those a while ago. Faith and fitness? Nice. Women's conference. Excellent. All right. So with that, you've had a chance to stretch. I'm sure you're awake now. We'll see. I want now, as it says up here, I'm going to try to juggle the microphone and the clicker. It all starts with prayer, so let's do that. Lord God, I just thank you for each and every woman that's in this room. I thank you for the ministry they represent. I thank you for what they're already doing and what you are going to do in their place, their space, where you have called them to serve. So, Lord, I just pray that we could share ideas and get encouraged here. That's all I'm asking for. So help us to share our story. And I pray that the women would intersect with that well, Lord. So we just want to minister to your women. We thank you for them. And we pray it in Jesus' name. And all the girlfriends said, amen. So our ministry is Girlfriends for God. So we end every prayer with all the girlfriends said. And if that offends you, when I changed the name from Women of Faith, because that's how we started, was going to Women of Faith events, to Girlfriends, I got feedback on my survey. That sounds like young girls, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, you're going to hear it, right? It's either the color of the napkins or what kind of coffee you use or what your name is. And we just shorten it to G for G, so that in the little g is girlfriends and the big G is God. And it just makes it easy in correspondence to say G for G. So if it offends you, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make you feel like a young girl. Well, I actually am. I want you to feel younger. Right. Okay, so Stephanie and I, well, let me just do it in order here. So this is just how it happened at my church. And I'm going to be quick because you don't really care. But I want you to know how it happened. All right, so I was an LCMS teacher, CCRF, like Jeff Schrank said last night. Kathy, I'm so glad you said something because we were there together. If any of the rest of you were there, it's now CUC, I guess, whatever. So in 1991, I had my first child. And I knew that I had to be in the Word, or because we had already decided I was going to leave my lucrative career when I had children and not be a Lutheran school teacher full-time anymore. So I left that lucrative career and thought, I got to get in the Word and I got to be with other women. I'm an extroverted person, and being home, this baby wasn't planned. We were married 1 year, and the next day after our first anniversary, I went into labor. And it was just chaos. It was chaos. And so I knew to keep my head together, I had to be in the Word. So I started a Bible study. Then in 97, I don't know how many of you heard about the Women of Faith conferences, but our men went to Promise Keepers before that. And I was waiting for our event. Like, what's going to be out there for women? Women of Faith actually started in 96, but we went in 97, and I just put up a sign-up sheet. Remember when we did those, we actually signed up? Stuff, it was on a bulletin board. Remember those? And there was a pen hanging from a string. And we always hoped that somebody wouldn't take the string down, because then the pen was gone and then people wouldn't sign up. I'm dating myself right now. Some of you are like, what? But anyway, so 97, I just put up a sign up. We got 24 women to go. And then when we came home, I said, okay, now because the men were doing things after their Promise Keepers events. And I said, okay, now we have to plan some stuff. So we just had a quarterly breakfast. 3 times a year, so it really wasn't quarterly. It was 3 times, in fall, winter, spring. And that's how we started. We just called ourselves Women of Faith because we had no creativity. We just stole their name. And then, by God's grace, I created a position. God let me create a position in women's ministry, and my pastor was on board. The Purpose-Driven Life, if you guys have ever read that, Rick Warren, that book came out right about then. And what are your passion and your purpose line up? And I knew I was passionate. I'd been teaching music for 10 years. I was done with that. I wasn't passionate about that anymore. So I was blessed to be on staff in women's ministry. And I know that that is a luxury for a lot of churches. And some of you are going to look at us and go, yeah, well, you have a title and you get paid. I know. We're blessed. And I'm so glad there are a few other of us in the synod, but it's not very common. But I didn't start getting paid. Okay, so I'm going to start the story with being a volunteer, because I was. And then in 2019, God brought Stephanie, well, before that, but we started a 3-year transition plan. So June 30th, I'm done. She is the director of women's ministry full-time. Well, we're part-time, but she's fully the women's ministry director starting July 1st. And I'm thrilled, and you'll hear about her more when she shares her part of this. We're going to tag team this here today. All right, so we began with prayer, and we're going to, so 101, we're going to start with the basics. And some of you are going to go, yeah, we're way beyond that. Just hang in there. Okay, hopefully we can give you something worthwhile. So these are the 5 things we're going to talk about. I'm going to handle 3 of these. Stephanie's going to handle 2. So we already talked about beginning with prayer. Please don't ever, ever, ever skip this step. You need to pray by yourself. You need to pray with your team. And please start every event with prayer. Because it's not you, it's never you, and it's never me, it's never Stephanie, it's God working through us. So start with prayer, and then Bible study. And I know, Deanne, you talked about this morning. You got to have the Word. It's like diet and exercise, right? We all just want to take a pill and lose weight, and it doesn't work that way. We all want to take a pill and just be spiritually strong. It doesn't work out that way. We have to be in prayer and in Bible study. And even if it's a more of a social event, you need to have a little devotional thought or something, because we're not just a girlfriend's night out, and we're not just a women's club. We're connected to Jesus. Now, it doesn't have to be a full-blown hour-and-a-half Bible study, but the women that are there should know that this is a Christian event. Okay? That's all pretty basic. Now, Bible study. When I started in 97, well, I started teaching one in 91. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't anywhere near what there is now. So there are lots of resources. And I will just throw this out here right now that Stephanie put this together. So this is what we're offering right now. Some of them on Zoom, some of them it's a mom thing. We also have a faith and fitness thing that I didn't put on there. Our brochures are over here if you care. If you don't, just leave them. But we have our general ministry brochure, our mom cafe brochure, and our conference brochure. We are silly enough to have a conference next weekend at our church. So I'm glad Stephanie's doing most of the work. And last summer, how many of you have seen The Chosen? If you haven't seen The Chosen, it's time. It's time. You're going to think, oh, it's a Jesus show. It's going to be lame. It's not lame. It's really, really great. And they have a Bible study book. And so I did that last summer. It just makes Jesus come to life. It's great stuff. And then this. So God has led me to write my own. Stephanie made this slide. You can just ignore it. These are the ones I've taught on. This year I taught on Elijah. I'm teaching on Elijah and Elisha, which is perfect because I'm handing the baton off. So she's my Elisha, which is awesome. All right. Last thing I'm going to talk about for now is a team. Yes, please, Deanne.
About your studies that you've written. Can you talk about them with us?
Okay. So, like 12 years ago, I realized that I didn't like any of the study guides I had. That I just kept changing them. Like, let's skip that question. Let's do this one. And I felt like God was saying to me, you've been in the Word a long time. It's time you start writing your own. So I just buy a bunch of commentaries, and I study, and I write a study. That's what I do. So that's...
Are they available?
They are. In fact, they're even on Facebook. You can download Stephanie's, I don't even know how to do this, but she's got the links on Facebook, and my Zoom session is recorded in there, so they're yours, they're free. And the ones on Facebook, I mean, if you go back, there's probably 4 years worth now, and they're there for you if you want them. I talk a long time, so, I mean, it's usually a good hour lecture, but we go verse by verse through every verse in these books of the Bible. So that's just the way I teach, because that's what feeds me. That doesn't work for everybody. Some people, I hand them all outlines and small group questions when they come in, and I think some are like, whoa, that's like a class, and I don't want that. So, you know, I'm not everybody's style. And some of you are like, yeah, you're really not my style. I get it. Girlfriends for God. We can, yeah.
You can put it in the class notes in the app, some links.
Yeah, we'll put some links in there. So that's just something that God has led me to do over the years. I didn't start that way. I don't know how many of you ever did the Becoming a Woman of Bible study. So the very first one I did was Becoming a Woman of Excellence. There's Becoming a Woman of Freedom, Becoming a Woman of Grace. Those are great to start with, but those are older now. So whatever works for you. Please do this. Recruit a team. If God has put it on your heart, and some of you are like, yeah, we already have one. But if some of you are just getting started, God's put it on your heart to get something more going for women, find some like-minded women, because they're there. If God led you to kind of get going, find some other women that are willing to commit. We ask ours to commit for a year, a school year, ministry year, and then we reevaluate with them after that. So this is our team this year at our Christmas event. So there happen to be 8 of us. We have 2 co-directors right now. So I tell women, after I've asked them, I said, just so you know, I've kind of stalked you. And they're like, what? I watch women, and I see if they're regular. Are they regular in worship? Do they come to women events on a regular basis? That sounds creepy, but you don't, trust me. There was a woman who came to retreat. She was young and she was bubbly, and one of my teammates said, we got to get her on the team. So I got her on the team, and it was a disaster, and I had to fire her as a volunteer. You don't ever want to do that. I didn't watch her long enough. If I would have watched her long enough, I would have seen that she wasn't all in. And that doesn't mean she's a bad person. She just wasn't a fit. So don't just take the next bright, flashy person, because I think I'm another mom that isn't in mom's group this year. Maybe you'll know who I'm talking about. She came and she said, I want to help with everything. And now she's not around. So people come in all excited, but if you don't watch them over at least a year, you don't know if they're going to be in it for the long haul or not. Okay? So I just put up here available. I used to run the team. I had a mixture of working and non-working women. And now we have all women that are available during the day for a meeting. Working women don't have the time to plan. They might plan a specific thing, but they're not on the team just because they're so busy. So, faithful, I already talked about that. Teachable, pleasant. We all want a pleasant woman, right? Because you all know of one right now that's not pleasant. You have a picture in your mind, I know you do, of some woman that you're like, I would never ask her. Right, don't. Because people go, really? She's on your team? Because I had a negative Nancy on my team. Her name wasn't Nancy. But I had a negative Nancy on the team, and she just brought the meetings down, brought them, and then people wanted to quit because they were tired of dealing with her. So I learned the hard way with some of this stuff. Participates already and is a positive person. All right, Stephanie's going to take it away. We're going to talk about communication.
Awesome. Let me just make sure this is recording. It is. Awesome.
I didn't screw it up.
So it's literally hard to follow Karen today, but like in general, in ministry, it's big shoes to fill. And she would say no, but she's celebrating 25 years of women's ministry today, this year. And she's my mentor, and I don't want to cry, but she's amazing, and I wouldn't be anywhere I'd be without her, and I wouldn't have the ministry to pick up if I didn't have her. So I feel really blessed. And people crave listening to her. I know y'all are disappointed I'm up here because you just wanted to hear more, but that's the vibe she gives, and people they can't get enough of her. And when she speaks on the word, it's so influential that people just beg her, what book study are you going to do next? Which book are you going to teach on? And so many women, it's so cool to see that they're so interested in the books of the Bible because of her. So just pray for me that I can carry it out. So we're going to talk about, we're still in the 101, right? We're not in the beyond yet. So 101, communication. So we'll talk about enhanced communication next, but for now, the basics. So you might have an event or a breakfast or something that you want to get the message out about, but it's all in vain if you don't know who to tell, right? You need to have people to share with. So the first step in literally 101 is to obtain people's information, and in this day and age it's the email, to really get the news out there, and then kind of like create an organizational structure for yourself, whether it's an email list or an Excel spreadsheet or even a database that your church software might have. It can be a piece of paper too, but with all the availability we have today, it's good to get that information and then stay on top of it. So many times I want to write something down and then right away, and then I don't. And then I'm like, oh, I should have written it down right away. So that's my little tip, is to be on top of writing it down. And then before you have something to give people, you have the people, you have a message, but you want to know, like, who are these people? How do I get to know them a little better? And just so you know, in our church, our women's ministry events are attended by less than 50% members. So just looking at our member database or looking internally isn't always going to help us figure out who they are and what they want and what they need. So we have a lot of non-members that come, and we love it. I think our upcoming conference is like 75% non-members. So we love to be a resource for the community. So we do surveys on demographics, on time of day, on events, on what people really want. Oh, here. This is an example of our database where it's called Church Community Builder, where we have everybody's name, email, contact information. We're just blessed that our church has a system that we can use. So maybe you have something like that, but if not, you can certainly keep track of your people in spreadsheets or in an email group. Or do you guys have any other ways you keep track of people that I missed? Okay. Yeah.
That database is for the survey or for...
No. This database is for people. Yes. Yep. And then this is our survey. So for surveys, you can use, and I get to this later, but since you asked, you can do a hard copy survey. You could do SurveyMonkey, which is free. There's some things that you can upgrade for, or Google Forms. If you have a Gmail account, you can use Google Forms to get information. And these are just good tools to capture information for evaluations for an event. But in this case, I'm talking about getting information on our people. Because to me, if I don't know who our people are, then it's pointless to say they're going to want a Christmas by Candlelight event because I don't know that. I need to know them first. So we incentivize people to take surveys to get to know them more. So here you can see that I just picked a couple questions from this. So we surveyed what is the age range of our people coming to events, and 61% of our people are 46 to 70. As much as we like to really promote things for younger women and get the younger women involved, in reality, it's a little bit of an older age group. However, what we've learned and what Karen's taught me is that older people are willing to come down and do things to get younger people in rather than vice versa. So for us, it's worked to do younger type events, even though our demographic is a little older, because they're just willing to do that, and it does bring people in. And then we had to know, for an example, if people worked or not. And more people these days are working than before. A lot in the part-time capacity, so maybe not that 9 to 5, but at least at some point throughout the week, they're working in general. Not everyone. The next one was, this one was very important. Viewing trends on what topics people are struggling with. So this isn't the complete list, but this helps us gauge where are people in our group really struggling, and what do we need to bring to them? What are they asking for? And finances, health, anxiety, right now, balance. Does anyone have balance down in life right now? Raise your hand. Yeah. I feel like balance is the biggest issue, and all of us have so many things going on, especially for moms. So that's one area so when we pick our studies, when we pick what we're going to do, how do we touch on these topics that actually matter to them, that they want to know about? And then we can feel more confident in the programming we do offer. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we had some, but we had an other category. Yeah. Yep. Oh, with gift cards, or the first one to reply, or if you replied by a certain date. And I do a lot of bartering. I'm trained in marketing and IT, and my dad was a salesperson, so I'll find a cleaner and I'll say, hey, do you want me to promote your cleaning service to our group of 500 women? Well, yeah. Okay, could you donate a free house cleaning for that? And then, yeah, so I kind of like that. That's my thing. It helps. It's mutual and free for us. Please rank your interest in the women's ministry areas, and you'll see by this graph here, people do crave Bible studies, specifically Karen's, because they're amazing, but they do want that. It's not just the floof that they're interested in, and they have areas. Fun and fellowship, yes, that's high too, but it's good to know where they really are interested in. And there was more to this survey, but then we have some open-ended questions. So for one thing is just how to get women ages 18 to 39 involved. And they had a lot of great ideas that we didn't have. I think I highlighted some here, like start a mentorship program, which I'll talk about later that we did. Their time is really short. So you have to really make something not a huge all-day commitment. So shortening up the time they're going to have to spend. People had really great ideas, and so we loved really using this. And we're starting to see younger people come, but they like to come in groups. They don't like to come alone. So if you can get a couple invested and then tell the rest of the group, hey, so-and-so is going to be there too, I think that really helps for our young people. It's hard to show up to something alone for the first time. So personal invitation will always be the best way to get people to things, but there's other ways as well. So we talked about this, the hard copy survey, the SurveyMonkey Google form. Okay, and then again, these are the 101 ways that you can get the word out there. So you know your people now, right? You've surveyed them. you know who they are and what they're interested in, but now you have to have some touch points of communication. So how are we going to get the word out? What are the top ways? And so if you're not on staff and you're doing this as a volunteer, you have to be picky. You have to use the things that will work effectively the best, and minimize like spinning all your wheels for no traction, right? We talked about that last night. So finding those touch points that really work. And everybody's different. My people's touch points are not going to be the same as yours. So it's getting to know your people. And people are bombarded with information more than ever. And so I know there's this thing out there about you have to hear something 7 times before it finally like, oh yeah, I heard about it. Really? You didn't see the 17 emails, the 3 Facebook posts, the bulletin board, and the big sign? Oh no, I just saw it for the first time yesterday. And you're like, exhausted because you've tried so hard to communicate. But don't give up because you can get through that. I think cross-platform communication is helpful. It is time-consuming, but you can duplicate a lot of what you're doing. You can write a newsletter and an email, take that snippet out, pop it in a Facebook post, have it shared to Instagram, and then have the pastor talk about it on Sunday without too much duplication of work. But so I started here with the church bulletin or a newsletter. If you guys are still doing those, ours are electronic now, is a good place to start. Church announcements, the email to that group that you set up is always a good idea. I think people are pretty good about emails. Postcard mailings is one of the first things we did. We're starting to do them less, but they still are effective for the right event. So again, this is 101. We'll get into some other communication methods later, but these are good places to start for communication and getting your stuff out there. Now, we're going to transition into programming. So what are we communicating? What are we doing? So maybe you have a ministry that is set. You have all your things that you do every year and you're very busy. You don't have any room for more. Or maybe you don't have anything today and you're sitting here and you are looking for something. And for like that, like Karen said, just look for one thing to start with. Don't try to do everything. Pick one event, pray about it, see where God leads you, and then you'll be inspired to do what feels natural after that. So our first slide, we have Advent by Candlelight is a really popular women's event, and I love it as an organizer because for us, the way we do it is you find a table hostess, they set up their own table, and all the decorations done. So that part's really awesome as an organizer, and it's not hard to invite people because they're in the Christmas season. It's hard to find downtime for yourself and refocus on the season, and this event has always been very well received, and you don't have to twist people's arm with incentives to come. So that's a great first one if you'd like to start an event. Another easy event to do when you're starting is just plan a breakfast or a luncheon, because food is still like the best part, right? We all love the fun food. And use like a speaker or a video and just have a light conversation about it. Something non-committal. And then from there, maybe you'll see some interest in a more committed study from these women. But just doing something light and easy is a good place to start and getting people together. It's just that first step in the door. Does anyone do a Advent by Candlelight or Christmas by Candlelight? Sure. We've been doing, we had 12 years of Christmas by Candlelight. But the way we do it now is it's at an event, it's at a hall, and we ask hostesses if they want to have a table, and then they invite people, and then we serve a meal. You don't have to do a meal. Some people just do apps or desserts, and we have a speaker, and we sing Christmas carols, and just put on a nice, beautiful, low lights, candlelit evening for the women. We pray, and does that explain it pretty well? Yeah. So you can Google it. There's lots of Pinterest boards about Advent by Candlelight and fun ideas. And the women it's a really good outreach event. Just women who won't come to anything else will come to a Christmas by Candlelight. I personally have someone come to my table most years who that's her only churchy thing a year. So if you're looking for outreach and something light, this is always a good event for that.
It's also a great event for multi-generational.
Oh yeah, my mom comes. When my daughter's old enough, she'll come. Very, very true. With a lot of women's ministry events. Yeah.
Pinterest is fantastic for anything to do with women's ministry. I mean, pages and pages and pages.
Yes.
And a lot of it is absolutely free. Just copy it off.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have those boards and share information. Okay, so this is not to overwhelm you. This schedule here is 25 years in the making, okay? But this is what a typical year looks like for us with paid staff and 25 years of what we do. We've kind of solidified it. It's not always set in stone. We change it when we need to. But we start with a kickoff event. We go into a 6-week study, which Karen Lippert will talk about later on why that works, the 6-week study. We do a soup or a celebration event late fall. I'll talk about that later. That's amazing. Christmas by Candlelight, we call it. We always do in December. And then we start a new round of Bible studies, November through April. We have a wellness event. I know you were talking about fitness and faith. We like to do those as well. In January, or a session on prayer or mother-daughter tea. We switch it up from year to year. February, we either do an on-site retreat or on-site conference or a off-site retreat every other year, just to split it up, because planning that, it's a lot of work. So this year, next week, Karen said, is our on-site conference. In the end of April, we do a Oasis, we like to call it, like a testimonial event where people share their testimony. And then the summer, Karen's always great about leading a 6-week study, which I think you were talking about. Your group does 6 weeks in the summer. So, and then Karen did introduce the fact that we have a team. So our team meets once per week, and I'll try to get these slides online too for you guys. I think we can drop it in the notes of our session. Yeah. Okay. I'll do it. So our team meets once a month. Maybe that works for you guys, or maybe it's once a quarter or twice a year. It really depends. There's no set way to do it. And then they help with setup and takedown. And so it's just really nice to have a team. And we pray over them, and it's really great. So, speaking of programming, this is just a brain dump of the events that we have done in the past. Not all of them have worked great or had great attendance, but it's things we've tried. And so we thought this would be a great place to share some of those. We did this year, our theme was adventure, and that's really fun. And it was based off of our 6-week study. And so we planned 3 adventures. We were going to go hiking, snowshoeing, and then we're going to kayak. And I thought, and people were really hyped, but the turnout has been really low. But low turnout doesn't always mean it wasn't a success if some people walk away and it's what they needed. So don't cancel an event because of turnout. Quality isn't always quantity. But there's some events that we don't invest in anymore because they weren't working for various reasons. So we've tried everything from Christian comedians, which worked really well, power lunches, an evening outdoor with a tent. We did that as our first event back from COVID because people really wanted to get together, but they weren't necessarily ready to be indoors. So we did an outdoor event, which worked really well. Minus, every few hiccups that everybody deals with events, and more. So I guess I wanted to get your input. Is there something not on the screen that you do as an event that this just would help brain dump ideas? I know someone said Mom's Night Out, or yeah.
So we're going to try this kind of thing, but at the end of March, we're having something called Painting on the Patio.
Oh.
Just paint, and there's like 400 paintings you can choose from.
Wow.
Christian related.
Yeah.
The ladies out there learn how to paint, have some cheese and crackers.
That sounds wonderful. And then you walk home with a painting too. I like it. Anybody else want to share an event that they really like? Yeah.
We had one before Christmas, early in Advent, I guess, where we had someone come and we did
Sweet. Yeah.
An idea similar to the Advent by Candlelight that my parents' church does is they do something that they call Bethlehem breakfast. So instead of it being an evening event, it's a morning event, and they get it's catered, but this year they even just had Chick-fil-A.
Nice.
But it's the same kind of thing for people who can't bring everything to decorate tables. They just do it in the church; it's already decorated. But they do the same kind of program, but they call it Bethlehem breakfast.
Nice. Yeah, Molly.
The event that I just had last week is not fully women, but it was a date night. But
Oh,
I
yes.
say it's women because they were the only ones that signed up.
Yes.
They were the ones that signed up their husband. But yeah, we got together in the fellowship hall and we had wine and appetizers. And what drew it was the content of Love and Logic, but also the wine. Wine.
Your church has to allow it first.
Yes, they do. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the key.
The pastor had an in.
And the pastor brought the wine. So it was a
Their wine can stretch a long way.
But yeah, I love the idea of sometimes even bringing in the spouse to the women's zone and having that date night opportunity. Maybe offer babysitting for the kids. Moms always love that. So, yes.
Kind of combining testimonials and guest speakers because
Yes.
at least once a year at our elderly ministry event, we will have women in the church that play an active role, like for instance you and on the board. We have the schools, we ask one of the teachers to come and just tell us about their experience of working in this church and working with women.
Yes.
What can we do to help them with that?
I love that.
They talk about it for years after.
Right. I love those types of events. And even when you can get a panel, like a fun interactive panel. We had a manel before. It was a man panel for our women. That was fun. I forget Jody's husband was on there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I guess did you have one? Or
We had a Mom's the Word around Mother's Day.
Mom's the word. Nice.
And all the servers were men dressed in tuxedos and black bow ties. And we also did a fashion show.
Oh, yeah.
And words, really funny fashion show.
Nice.
So,
Yes.
A long time ago, we had one at our church where it was for women, but it was kind of a fashion show of wedding dresses. And
Yep.
women that couldn't fit in theirs, we had young ladies from our school.
Oh.
And it was another multi-generational thing
Yeah.
that my girls still talk about it because they got to wear two
Right.
of the wedding dresses.
That is so fun. There's no. Go ahead. Yes.
we did a tea party.
Yep.
Where everybody was dressed up. They were supposed to wear gloves and
Hat.
And we did the thing with each person took a table and they brought their tea sets or their,
Oh, nice.
and it was fun. And we had a person talk about tea and the different kinds and where.
How this is actually not proper, or it is. I don't know. I can't remember ever. But yeah, you guys can see there's no slew of opportunities or ideas for events. It's all about what works for your women, doing it again if it works, not doing it again if it doesn't. But just praying, I think a lot of prayer helps discern what to do. I just wanted to talk about a couple of quick events that might inspire you. This event we call Soups On. Is a newer event. We've been doing it for 3 years. And it doesn't bring the ton, but it doesn't bring a small group, but it's amazing. It's my favorite because I love soup and bread in the fall, and it's basically costs us $40 to put on. I think we pay for plates and bowls and butter. We have a soup off, so everybody brings a crock pot of soup, and then we celebrate with worship and everything. So this event has been really popular for our women and our moms. They love having a free hot meal. This was an example of a testimony event. We had one of our members talk about her loss through losing stillborns, and she was a member, and it was on her heart to share. So we use our members' stories to help encourage each other. Her daughter is now after she had stillborns, her daughter is now my babysitter. So God is good, right? And then this was our kickoff event where we were outside after COVID, and we just wanted it to be a fun, string lights were kind of in, they're still in, I guess, I don't know, I'm getting older, so, yeah, than I used to be, but this was our fun kickoff event. This was an example of one of our Christmas by Candlelight postcards that we send out. This was this year's, yep. And then this was our comedian we brought in. This one was not $40, it was $3,500. So we have a wide range, but we did ask for people to pay $10 towards their ticket, and we'll get into other money stuff later. But he was great. Darren Streblow sat down, ate crumble cookies with us, was real down to earth, clean comedy. We actually even had this event outdoors again and enjoyed about 120 women, got them to laugh and get them into Bible study after that. So paying for it, you might ask, how do we pay for a $3,500 comedian to come? Well, like I mentioned, we charged $10 a ticket, and we had 120 women come, which helped. We also had a savings fund that we use. Again, after Karen's been doing this for 25 years, people have seen the value and invested to help the ministry grow. But we haven't always been able to have events like that. But other things you can do is charge registration fees, do free will offerings, ask for it in a church budget eventually, which we do have. Ask for donations or barter locally, like I was talking about earlier, swapping services. And I know someone talked about this yesterday, having a real estate person sponsor their mom's night out. So he covered the cost of it, but then he got to promote his realty business. So it was a win-win for both parties. We've done coffee sales. Stone Creek Coffee, is that a thing around here? Probably not. No, but it's really good. And I'll sell you some if you need some, because it'll help pay for women's ministry. And then God always provides too. And he's not going to lead you to something you can't do. So with that, yeah.
Do you use Thrivent cards?
Oh, yes. We do for all our outreach events, and we're starting to do it more faithfully, which has helped. Good addition.
All right, so that's kind of the end of our 101. Questions, comments, before we go into the beyond? We're trying to set this up logically, believe it or not. Yeah.
Can you send out the questions on your survey?
Absolutely. The questions on the survey?
I can probably even put a link to the library.
Yeah, we can do all that. She's great at that. I'm just going to tell you she'll do it for you. Okay, so I tried to think about what have I done after I got on staff and actually tried to make this go a little further than how it started. Because I don't ever want to be stagnant. I don't know about you, but that's not exciting to me. So for years, we did a free will offering. Why? Because we had no budget. So we had our little cans on the table, and please don't forget to donate before you go. And after a while, I just felt like the Lord was saying to me, would you stop taking care of yourself and take care of somebody else? So we pick a specific ministry every year to support, and it's a ministry that's in our community that ministers to women, that's Christian-based. So I'll get to that in a second. Some more event planning stuff. Better communication, that's Stephanie's baby. So we're going to kind of get into this now. So that's the ministry to support. So we've had a lot of fun with that. We have a women's center in Milwaukee, the Joy Houses for women with their children. Place of Refuge is actually an LCMS house for women in crisis pregnancies. It's an RSO of our synod, so it's awesome. We have one of those in the Milwaukee area. Redeem and Restore is a local human trafficking ministry for women. And this year we're doing Safe Families of Wisconsin. These are for families that are in crisis, might need a little break, and so people take their kids in for a while, or we just help them out with supplies. So our key there is local, Christian, and women focused. So that person, that executive director, comes to our kickoff gala and shares with everybody. We say 5 minutes. That's really hard for any executive director of any nonprofit, but we give them the stage for 5 minutes to introduce to the people what the ministry is this year. And we've duplicated some of these more than 1 year. And then we take an offering that night. Our Christmas by Candlelight event, we do not charge for. And we serve them a meal. We have a local Italian place that they're very generous. And we still pay for it, but it's not astronomical. We have a budget. We just budget for it. But then we take an offering that night. And we raise $4,000 to $5,000 that night because it's Christmas. And we just fed you. So cough it up, right? I mean, come on. It's Christmas, so let's give. So it's not about us. And at Christmas, that same representative comes back because that's our biggest event. We get between 300 and 350 at that event. That's just us. You may not. It just works for us. But that event is a great fundraiser, and the people love coming. And then we just hand them the cash. We say give cash or checks and write it to them, and we just give it to them that night. So we don't have to do the pass-through stuff. And what else? That's probably, and then, so all year long we're collecting for the same ministry. So we're trying to highlight ministries in our area that are doing things for women. All right. Now, some extra things with event planning. I just thought, women should never have to hold open their own door. So the team just has to go hold open doors so that when women show up, you say hello and the door's open and you have a smile. It's a little thing. But just hold doors open for everybody. Have greeters, name tags. Again, whether you make them or they make their own, that's up to you. Making sure there's some kind of an icebreaker, some kind of interpersonal, because some women are brave enough to come alone. And then they sure want to be able to talk to somebody while other girlfriends are talking to each other, right? So you got to get something to break the ice. We always have a worship component of some sort, prayer, and then some kind of spiritual biblical content. And we fell kind of into this. I don't even know how it started. But at the end, one of us, whoever's emceeing the event, will say, you have to do 3 things before you go. Fill out your evaluation, donate, evaluate, and then share 3 hugs. Now, this was pre-COVID, so this was we were trying to introduce hugging 3 people before you go. And that sounds weird, but that's the expectation now. You're going to hug 3 women, and most times they hug women they don't know. And so it's just kind of a nice way to send women out. It's a little thing, but they know. Evaluate, donate, hug. I wish hug rhymed. I was trying to figure out a way to rhyme hug with evaluate and donate. I couldn't do it. Prayer. Hug-ate. There you go. It almost sounds like, oh, never mind. So, evaluations. You can go as simple as, what did you like? What can we improve? I never say, what didn't you like? Don't even phrase it that way. So, this is women, right? Look at this. More napkins. I think we should make a hat or wear one. So that's fine. That's what some women thought. We may or may not do that. More tea. This was obviously our mother-daughter tea. But then it's nice. I loved everything about the day. You hang on to those comments. So this is a literal piece of an evaluation that we did 2 years ago. All right. So, yeah. Somewhat. We usually say the speaker, and then we usually have a couple of content areas like speaker, worship, food, decor, atmosphere. But sometimes it's that simple. It's like, what did you like? What didn't you like? Depends. But like a retreat, like our conference, it's pretty specific. Speaker, breakouts, food, because you can always learn. It's kind of a bummer sometimes to do an evaluation, but it's always good for us to get better, right? And sometimes we've offered a drawing with our evaluations, like turn it in, and then put your name in a jar so that we actually get your feedback. It's really sad, but sometimes we do things like that to bribe them. Okay, so our Christmas by Candlelight, this was from a couple years ago. It's the first Thursday of December every year. So all the women know it's the first Thursday. We are blessed with a local Lutheran high school that has a beautiful hall. So that's where we do it, and they don't charge us rent. So we just have that in our area. We're blessed. We always get a speaker. The ministry speaks. I said that before. It's free. 100% goes to the ministry. This is the woman who spoke last year at our Oasis event. We actually had an Oasis ministry years ago that was created for working women. They couldn't commit to a regular Bible study. And we did them once a month. But that comes up fast. And it was all working women on that committee because I wanted them to have an event for them. I don't know. I don't work full time, so I wanted them to do it. So now we don't do them as often because sometimes more is not better. Just continuing to pour out event after event after event, it gets to be overload because the school has tons of events. We have a big school, relatively big school in our place. There are other things going on in the church besides just women's ministry. So we've really gone to the personal testimony the last couple of years because some women in our church had no idea that this woman lost 3 children. 1 in a car accident and 2 with birth defects. That was tragic. And we had no idea. She's been in our midst for years, but she was finally ready to share her story. So we found the longer you do this, the more you get to know your women and getting them to share. Those are powerful stories when people are just sharing their own life. So this was a kickoff gala we did one year. It was called Fight Back with Joy, and so we had balloons. We all wore red. It was fun. That's at our gym that also serves as our worship center, kind of like it is here, but it's not as nice as what they have here. So we do our theme. We tell the Bible study times. We have books on hand. So years ago, I saw that our numbers were going down and our age was going up on our Bible studies. So I even have it, You guys have Jesus Calling, that little book that came out years and years ago. So I'm not a journaler, but what I do is I write in the year. Like, so this is what, February something, 18? Is it 18 today, 19? So like today I would say 2022 at BPM with a smiley face. But some years I write, 2017, fighting anxiety. Or 2014, my dad has cancer, which he did. Or whatever. I just write in a little phrase with that date. Because then when I get to that date, I'm like, look at what happened 5 years ago on this date. And then see the faithfulness of God. Because I'm not going to journal. I just know I won't. It's not my thing. But it's great. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying for me. So I was like going with that. Okay, so I put in my Jesus Calling. I got to do something with G4G. Because our numbers are going down. Our age is going up. And I don't even know how it happened. But we realized a shorter commitment was better. So in 2015, we started doing a fall study. The team in the summer, we preview a bunch of videos. And Study Gateway, or Right Now Media, if you can get your church to subscribe to one of those. Our senior pastor has a church subscription, and anybody in our church can get a free account. I don't know what it costs, but it's awesome because all these video-based studies are there. So Stephanie and I, the last 3 years, we've watched videos on our own, brought them to the group, we watch the first session, and then we vote which one you think resonates. And every year, God gives us a 6-week study, and we just do 6. Some studies are 5, some studies are 8, some are 7. We just pick, I don't know why, 6-week study seems to work. So if it's a 5-week study, we don't even look at it. That's just us, we're weird. But 6 weeks works for us. So that year it was Fight Back with Joy. And so we had balloons everywhere. The red balloon was on the cover, so that was our theme for the year. And then we try to base it off of that. So the first year, we had a group every single day of the week. In homes, it's church, in coffee shops, wherever. It was amazing. Women would commit for 6 weeks. And I know, Deanne, you do kind of the same thing. These short-term, quarterly things. And then the women that want the deeper programming that are committed, we pick that up after the 6-week study is over. And some keep going. Some enjoy, like this year, I couldn't believe it, on a Saturday morning at 7, one of our teachers led a study. And I'm thinking, Saturday at 7 a.m.? You've just taught all week? This is your only day to sleep in? But they love it. And they did the 6-week thing, and now they're still going. So you just don't know what God's going to do. So that's what's worked for us. We're trying to be, and this is where Stephanie is huge. She's coming in with a lot of great creative. She can do all this marketing and this IT stuff. So we're using Chick-fil-A for lunch. So we're not making the lunch. It's not that expensive. She's got a local radio personality from a Christian radio station coming to speak. She's great. She can make videos. They're on our Facebook page. You'll see them. She got a QR code. We look like we're actually up to date. So it's great. She's brought a whole bunch of technology and stuff, gifts that I don't have. All right. Is it still me or is it you now?
I think we switch and then you do 6-week study again.
Okay. So I'm coming back to the 6-week study later.
You're good, yeah. All right. I will say one of the people that we had share their testimony to our group is in this room today. Miss Molly has been such a blessing to us. She came to Karen and I with so many questions and just a heart for Jesus and knowing him more. And now she has moved on to another church because she moved and is starting things there. So it's just so awesome to see that in you. And then you're here, because you want to be. So that's amazing to see. God is good. All right. So now we're going to go to communication leveled up. So again, if you're not there, don't freak out that you're not here because this is a level up. This is like just extra things that you can do when you're ready. So how did you do that thing? See, I don't even know.
I know something you don't.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. This is our website. We have a director of communications at our church, and she manages our website. And then this is our Facebook group. And we have more communication points than I mentioned in the beginning. So in a leveled up, we try to hit all these points. So our website, we send out a weekly email to 550 women. And in that email, we always include a devotional. Sometimes I can write all the content for an email. Here's what's coming up. Here's where we need your help. Here's where we need you to donate. And then I get to we call it an evotional. I get to the evotional and I think, really? I could just send it now. But the difference is we're not just a women's club, right? The faith is the important part. And we couldn't send it without that, because that is what we need to share, is God's word and those devotionals. That's just the devil working, trying to get me to get through my stuff. But those are a blessing. And we always include that in our email. Thanks to Karen. She started that. I can't take credit. We send out postcards. We do announcements in church. We have brochures, which you can grab on the way out, which I'll show you how to make later if you need advice. I can give you templates. In Facebook, we have a group. I think I talked about that on the next slide. Jumping ahead here. I'll get to that. Instagram, we don't have yet, but I want it. But I'm waiting for God to say, like, now's the time. So we don't have Instagram. We don't have TikToks, all that stuff. TikTok. It's hard to jump into all that. But I think if you do it prayerfully and not just do it to do it, I think it's the best option. So we're going to do that. Personal invitations are still best. And then we do have a bulletin board, which is fun to have outside our office. So there's a lot of communication points because we know how people are wired. We also like to work on having a cohesive theme for the year, which is always determined so far by our 6-week study. So our 6-week study, how come I cannot think of it?
Yeah.
Megan Fate Marshman.
Yeah.
I'll get there. But the tagline for her study this year is let the adventure with God begin. And so we use the tagline from the 6-week study book, meant for good. Meant for good. And you know what's crazy about the study we picked this year for is that we picked Megan Fate's Meant for Good study, and then we Googled her, and we found out her husband passed away right after she wrote the book, All Things in Life Are Meant for Good. And my best friend's husband, also my friend, had passed away within a week of him. And if that's not a God thing, I don't know what is. So I think sometimes when we step back and realize God is directing this ministry and we're not, it really can boost your morale because you know God's in control and not you. So that's just a cool example of how God works. And so this year we chose Let the Adventure Begin as our tagline. This is a friend's picture from a local lake. And then we had all the teal. This is our new logo for this year, which you'll see on our shirt. And I just blinded myself. Our tagline that Karen came up with years ago is connecting women to God and each other. It's simple, but it is our mission to connect people to God, women to God, and each other. And so we love our new logo. We try to incorporate the teal color into what we do and just make it cohesive. So when you see women's ministry stuff, you recognize it. I was an IT major and a marketing major, so that does help. And I'm glad I quit my corporate job to do what I'm doing now. There's more meaning, for sure. So I talked about our Facebook group. We have 384 members in it. And the thing I really encourage you about a Facebook group is the difference between a group and a page, whether you probably know this, is that the group, when you post in it, everybody gets notified and can see it. On a page, there's an algorithm that shows it to only certain people. So pages are great, but group is where you're going to really build that community. And then your group can either be public or private. I recommend a public group for your overall ministry, and then for your subgroups, private groups. So our Mom's Bible Study has a private group where people share prayer requests that they don't want out there. So it's a safe space, and I really make sure only the people in that Bible study are in it, and that they all know not to share. So, but for our ministry, we use a public group, and it's people see events that we do just on the searching Facebook, what's going on near me. So it's a neat outreach. And you can schedule Facebook posts. Did you know that? Raise your hand. Yeah, so it's nice to not have to always be on it. You can sit down one day a month or one day a week and just schedule some Facebook posts that you know about things coming up. That's a time blocking skill that I have learned. Okay, and then this is a cool free tool I would like to share with you, is Canva. Have you heard of Canva? Do you love Canva? Oh, did they talk about it? Nice. Well, it's free. I have upgraded to the paid account, but you don't have to. It just offers more options. But it helps me make all the graphics that you've seen today in this presentation. It's really not hard to get into. You just got to play with it a little bit. And yeah.
So the paid part so that shareable within the church, like if the church
Oh,
has
yeah.
one, they could use the paid one?
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to all share the username and password, I think. Yeah.
The main people part.
Right. Yep. But it's worth it, and it's like the newbie's tool for graphic design, right? It's really, do you love it? Like, yeah. I just feel so cool using it. I'm like, sweet, this looks good. And it wasn't even hard. Oh, that's my daughter. Right there. Yeah, she's so cute. But yeah, it's been great to have this tool, canva.com, and it's helped us kind of brand ourselves a little bit. Another tool that you should know about is Doodle. Does anyone doodle? Yes. Nice. I knew we had a lot in common. It helps you organize, and this is for all areas of life, not just women's ministry. What you do is you put like a bunch of, so if you do like emails, like going back and forth about when to meet, no, it's like they never stop, right? So you just send a doodle out with available times that work for you, send it to the group, and then they check what days work, and then you can easily pick the best one, right? Have you used it? Yeah, it's great. So it just saves a lot of time and back and forth in the emails about, well, does this day work for you? Okay, good. Well, then it doesn't work for you. And then, so it's just a little trick and tool I'd like to share with you. And then Slack. Does anyone use Slack? Yeah, it's a little more complicated, but it's just a good place to share information by category. We don't use it. I use it for something else, but it could work for women's ministry. So Karen is going to tell you more about our awesome 6-week study process.
Yeah, this will just be quick. This will be kind of what we've done the last 5-6 years. It helps us to set the theme for the year. So finding leaders and having them lead different times. We preview them ahead of time over the summer. We usually find a deal. I'm trying to think. Church Source, I think, is the one. If you look for like that, you can get bulk discounts, so you can get books pretty cheaply. We write our own study guide because I usually don't like. I always, whatever. Deanne's nodding, you know what I mean. So Stephanie and I have been doing that. So there's the Study Gateway Right Now Media, or you can, just still purchase the DVDs if you want to go that route. But I'm just going to run through quickly what we've done. So this was our one this year, Meant for Good, what neither one of us could remember. So obviously it was impactful. So we did have, we had 14 all of 7 days. We had 14 total over the 7 days of the week. We averaged 117 women in them with 2 brand new Bible study leaders this year. You know who they are. One of them was a teacher, and she volunteered for 6 weeks. You can do that. So we had over 200 that came at least once. We sold out the books we bought. A lot of people now just put in a link, and you might want to do that. Just put the Amazon link in and be done with it. But I can get a better deal, and we're Lutheran, so we're cheap. So if you can get it a couple bucks cheaper, if you want to go through the headache of that, fine. If you don't, just give them a link and tell them which one to order. But I still have women like, can you just get me my book? Because we have some older women that just don't want to order anything online. So that was a great study this year. I'd never heard of her, but we found her on Study Gateway. So Study Gateway has just a whole section for women. And there's just countless Bible studies there. And once you get that account, you have access to all of it. There's women, there's couples, there's men, there's theology, there's all kinds of parenting, there's all kinds of stuff on it. And we use that one, not Right Now Media, but that one's worked well. Okay, and then we did the Red Letter Challenge. So this is a shout out to Zach Zender, who's here. We did this congregation wide. So our women's ministry joined with what our congregation was doing. That's an LCMS pastor. You can feel very safe about the theology there. We did this one year. This is Jenny Lusko. If you've heard of Levi and Jenny Lusko, she wrote a book called The Fight To Flourish. And so we just called our year Flourish. That worked out great. It's kind of a heavy book. So they lost a daughter with an asthma attack at 5, but then that's what caused this other woman that lost 3 children to want to talk. So it's just amazing how that all turned out. You are free by Rebecca Lyons, she's written another one. This has a lot to do with anxiety. Why did we pick it? Because anxiety was it was the top topic on what do you want to. So that's a great one. And then this is another shout out to somebody who's here, Greg Finke, another LCMS pastor, Concordia River Forest. And we just called it Go, and we did all women in our advertising. But again, this was a church-wide one that we joined with because we always want to fall in line with the church when it works. I think that's it for me. So those are the 6-week studies we've done. They may work for you and they may not. But we just preview 4 or 5 online and then we vote. It's that simple. We pray and then we watch them and we vote. And the Holy Spirit always does something with it.
Yeah, I think one year the video wouldn't work in the hotel room and you had to...
Yeah, we all got in the truck and we watched it on her DVD player. It was awesome.
The devil cannot stop us. Right? Amen. The next section we're going to talk about, and before we will have time for questions, do not worry.
This is the last section.
Yes. I hope this has been helpful. If you take, again, like we said, if you take one thing out of it, and it helps one person at your church, it was worth it. So our next section's on moms groups. So as you know, I do not have to preach that moms need love and support more than ever. Their tribes are becoming smaller, and even with COVID, isolation is real. And for a mom, that is not good. I know because I am one. I have 3 kids, ages 4, 8, or 7, and 9. They grow up so fast. And I came from corporate America to full-time stay-at-home mom, and that transition was like awful for me. I was so depressed, I didn't know what to do. And then a friend invited me to a Bible study where I got to put my son in daycare. And maybe I'm a bad mom, but I was like, woohoo! Get to drink coffee. And okay, yes, I love Jesus, so this is great. So that personal invitation is the reason I'm standing here today. So don't forget about personal invitation and how much it means. More people are likely to come with that. So this is our Mom Cafe group. It's our moms group. It's changed names throughout the year. It used to be Mom to Mom and other things. And Molly, was this your first introduction to the church Bible study? Was Mom's group?
No, I didn't even know how to navigate the Bible. I just showed up because it had coffee.
Yeah. Yep. And were you personally invited, or did you find it on your own? I can't remember.
No, yeah, I found it on my own.
Yeah.
I needed something.
Yes, but you're a very driven person. Our moms group, our year is always different depending on who joins. We do it every Thursday during the school year when kids are in school. And the year starts out awkward, and it ends tighter than glue. It's just so amazing what God works in people and the stories that have come from it every year. So it's been quite a blessing to have our moms group. So right at school drop-off, 8:15 to 10:15. Yes. So our daycare and the preschool fit in the kids, but to be honest, we have a school that's the preschool is a waiting list right now, so we had to turn moms away this year because we didn't have room for childcare, and that broke my heart. We finally just found a nurse that is willing to watch them. We're running out of space at our school too, so it's been a struggle. But yes, childcare is a huge part. Molly started Mom Cafe at her new church, and they have 18 kids in the childcare, which just is amazing that how many moms are being served because of that.
We could have more.
Yeah, you have a waiting list.
Volunteers. It's so hard to find volunteers.
I was just talking to a gal at lunch, and she was talking about forming a group. And I said, ask your LWML group if they would be willing to watch your kids while you're meeting at church. Because that's a way that generation can serve the younger women and see them come together too and study in fellowship. So
Right.
That's
That's a huge thing. And Molly was saying that some ideas they threw around was the moms taking turns to babysit. And I say, hard no. Those moms need that time. And if they are willing to be in the Word, we got to make that happen because we could change their lives and everything. And I've seen it happen. So moms programming is really big on my heart. And I think it's a great place to start. Preschool, so this is new for us. We do a Mommy and Me class. It's run by an LCMS teacher, and she's retired and has grandkids, so she does Mommy and Me, and it's a really great outreach event. And so basically all the people are community members, and they come and enjoy that. And then they learn more about our school. Some of them have joined the school. Some of them have joined the church. And it's just a really great way. So Tuesdays, you can do Mommy and Me with your child and not feel guilty. And then Thursdays, you can come to Mom Cafe without your child and just have that full experience for your schedule. So a lot of people do change. Working moms will change their work schedule so they're not working so that they can attend this. Or they leave early to go to work, but it's great. And then something else we've done is we piloted the Growing Together mentoring workshop from the Women's Leadership Institute at Concordia with our women. And we kind of thought, are our women going to want to be mentored? And are people going to want to be mentors? And so God's so cool, right? Not only did we get a ton of women who said, I want to mentor, weren't shy, sign me up. There's the exact amount of mentors for the people that wanted one, like to the dot, right? It was like 18 and 18 or something. That's a God thing. Again, in your ministry, you have to look for those God things because he's speaking to us if we're willing to listen. And that's just not a coincidence. So mentorship was a season for us. It fizzled out here and there. There's some mentors that have kept their mentees, and that's okay. There's no expectation on how often you're supposed to meet, or it's just that take it where God leads it. And it's okay if it fizzles out too. But the mentoring has really brought together all the generations and has been a really great program. So I encourage you to look into that program. And then this gets into more community-based events that we do at our church, which isn't specifically for women, but it brings women and their families in. So we've done outdoor nativity walkthrough, which has been really fun. We've done a community movie night, and then here we do Breakfast with the King, which is a free pancake breakfast with the gospel story. It's an alternative to, Santa stuff, right? So it's light, but it also is an alternative, and those are my boys like 5 years ago. Isn't that crazy? But it's a really great event, and so these are also help. So with that, those are our emails. Our Girlfriends for God Facebook group, you can search it. I will get some stuff out on the app for resources as much as I possibly can. And then we just wanted to take this time to either see if you had any questions for us or if you had any input that you think would help this group to further grow our missions at our church for women and really speak to the heart of women. So, yes.
How old generally are the mentees? Like, are these young girls that want to be mentees?
No, these are young moms.
Oh, young moms get mentored.
Like
Okay.
millennials mostly, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then, so you start the 6 weeks. Is that you start the year with a 6 week?
Yep.
Yes.
Or you continually do 6 weeks?
Nope.
No, we just start there.
You just start there.
And then there's other Bible studies they can funnel into afterwards that are longer.
Oh, okay. So you start with the 6 week, and then there's other Bible studies throughout the year.
Yes, and that's what's worked. Right, that's what worked for us, but maybe continual 6 weeks would work with a different group of people.
So is it the same Bible study for every group? Is that
No.
Bible study every day?
No, well, the ones I teach are the same. So I teach 3 times a week.
I think she's asking about this. Are you asking about the 6 week? Yeah, those are all the
Those
same.
are all exactly the same, yeah.
So no matter who's the leader?
Right, we're all doing Meant for Good this year.
Okay.
And that's the
Everybody
thing.
had a Study Gateway account. There's one woman that still wanted the DVDs, so I bought her the DVDs. She put it into her DVD player at home. But everybody else has a Study Gateway account. They pull it up on their TV or on their laptop and connect it to it and do it that way.
But that's the thing. There were 14 different times and places you could go.
And it's the same. So if you miss one, you could go later in the week.
Right.
You get a couple of Zoom options during that
Yep.
time too.
Cover most of it in their home.
It really varies. It really varies. The one thing, you can't do that one at a coffee shop because it's DVD based. So that's the only thing about doing a DVD based is you have to be at a home or at church.
And
It's a mixture.
one thing we did to help our leaders was we created the study guide, but then we gave them a study guide with the answers in red or suggested answers in red so they could feel even more easy to just do this and feel empowered to lead a study. That way they could at least
They didn't have to know
No.
the answers.
Yeah.
We gave it to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you asked at the beginning about how we had help in that. How did you kind of get that to go together with the women?
Well, in our church, our situation was when I came, we had a small society that ended up fizzling. So that's just our story, and it's not what happens to every group. And I haven't had anybody that's like, I really want to get that going. So that's just our church. Oh, for sure. For sure, there's great stuff there. Absolutely. That could be a challenge, and for us, it had already kind of fizzled when women's ministry started. So.
I kind of see though what you're doing as LWML
Yeah, oh,
because
for sure.
you support a ministry, you know, and you're
Yeah.
gathering women
Yeah.
together in the Word, and that's what we are. We're women in the Word, women in service and mission. So even though it's not a presence there, what you're doing is. So.
And you invited me to your conference, so that's great.
And you can use them as the ministry that you're contributing to.
Absolutely. We're all in the same boat. We're all going the same place. Any other questions, comments?
One thing, you said under the communication plans that you included devotional and something that you sent
I
out.
have a better slide on
That's
that.
way back.
I skipped it
Emails you
earlier.
send out, you included devotional?
Yes, emails we send weekly. It's really early, sorry.
Yeah, it was,
I did skip it.
Keep going.
It was before this, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay. So I'll send, it has the header and opening. Here's our upcoming events. And then we just update it every week. And then at the very end, we always have a Bible verse and a devotional and a title in each G4G e-newsletter. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that come up on Facebook or what?
So it's emailed to all of our contacts. But sometimes I do print it in PDF and put it on the Facebook group. I mean, really, you can't over communicate. Did you see it? You posted our email. If you didn't get it, let me know. I do a lot of that. Yes.
Like about a sweet spot for scheduling breakfasts. Like what time of the evening works generally best for people? What time mid-morning?
I would say 6:30 in the evening for our group is about the right time. They can get a quick dinner or they just come right from work.
1 hour, hour and a half, how long is it?
Yeah, no more than an hour and a half. Somewhere, and an hour is just hard for women to really, you know, the DVD is maybe 20, or like the 6 week, it's 20, 25 minutes. They're 5 minutes late getting started, you open with prayer, then you go through the discussion guide, then you take prayer requests, and we all know that's where it really gets nuts, right? Because everybody, they can't just give the request. So here's a little thing I learned. Okay, here's a little thing I learned about women. So my Monday morning study is bigger, so I have small groups with it, and they write their prayer requests down. While they're in small groups, I take that, I take it to the office, I print it up, I hand it out. We don't talk about it. Because everybody has a story. That's awesome, but we have to get out of there because middle school is coming into the room we're using. So we can't hear every detail of your story. So if you take prayer requests in written form, that stops a lot of that gab. I mean, you can talk to them off-site, you know, or offline afterward, but you start opening it up for prayer requests and it can just go on forever.
And Karen is very good at respecting the time when it ends so that she builds trust with people. Because if you start going late, people are going to be like, I have an hour and a half, I don't have any more than that. And they always go over, and then I feel awkward leaving. So she's always been great
Yeah,
about
I've been kind of,
relaxing.
I was going to say a Nazi. That's not really the word I want to use. I think it's kind of that way. I'm like, we have to end, if it's 6:30 to 8, we end at 8, no later than 8:03. I mean, really. You got to build trust. So if it goes to 8:30, they're going to be like, well, that was fine, but I can't do that. So sticking to your time is really key.
How big is your congregation?
We have 1,700 members.
And what was the percentage of the millennials, did you say that?
We
Not-
did.
In our congregation or in our group?
Well,
In the-
that come to
Oh,
women's things.
Right. That's a good question. What we had up there was just the millennials that had answered the survey.
Yeah.
So we don't have those numbers at the top of our head. But you can probably guess. We're like everybody else, trying to reach them.
Yep.
That the 6-week thing has been the most effective. Because they'll commit for that. And they don't usually do them all.
Yeah.
Comments, questions, anybody else? Thank you for not falling asleep. Guys, God's blessings to you on whatever He's calling you to do in your church.